All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a brand new video. What's up? Oh, good girl. Today we're going to be going over my new training program. Nothing about my split has really changed, but a couple things that I'm doing in the background have changed that I want to kind of highlight and just use as a learning opportunity or a teaching opportunity. That said, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I appreciate you being here. If you don't know me, I am a retired, quote unquote, architectural technologist turned into an online fitness coach. I've been coaching for 5 years now. I won't get too deep into the details of that because I'm saving that for another video this year. So really in this video, I just want to kind of explain my new training block, the details behind it, why I made the decisions that I did, because I think that understanding your own training and like what really drives progress is so important to be able to structure your training properly. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of that, how I'm going to be changing my nutrition for the next 2 months, which is going to be a big thing for me. So I'm going to dive into that. Obviously, how I'm going to be supporting myself in my recovery, how I'm going to be tracking my progress and my metrics, everything like that. So this is like top to bottom what you could be doing for your goals if you want to take something from this and apply it in your own journey. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. We're going to go through a workout and I'll just be kind of talking through some common mistakes that people make with their programming and things to avoid. And I'm going to take this little one on a walk.
What is called not existing is quite incapable of being there without the contrast of something called existing. It's like the crest and the trough of a wave. You can't have a wave that is all trough and no crest, just as you can't have a wave which is all crest and no trough. Such a thing has never been manifested in the physical universe. They go together. And that is the secret. There really is no other secret than that. But it is thoroughly repressed. And therefore, we are all educated to feel that we've got to fight for the white because the black might win. We've got to survive. You must survive. That's the great thing we're all working on and pounding it out day after day in anxiety, because this is a description of anxiety. Anxiety is the fear that one of a pair of opposites might cancel the other forever. And if by any chance, by any means, you find out that that is not so, you have an entirely new attitude to what human beings are doing, which may be very creative, but which also may be very dangerous. You see through the game.
There are a few things that I want to cover in this video, and one of them is the background that I have in fitness and where I've been. Because if you see me doing an upper-lower split where I have 3 rest days a week, it was not always like this. And I want you to know that, because I feel like a lot of us start in a place where we have to do so much, or at least think that we have to do so much to see progress. And honestly, if I knew this a lot sooner, I probably wouldn't have taken the approach that I used to, which was working out, no joke, 7 days a week, twice a day. One of it was cardio, and one of the sessions per day was a lifting session. And then I transitioned to 6 days a week where I do push-pull legs twice a week. And eventually I tapered that back to an upper-lower push-pull legs. So it was a 5-day split. And then now my ride or die is upper-lower twice a week. And that gives me 3 rest days. And so before, I always thought I had to do so much and basically beat my body down in order for me to build or see any progress. And truthfully, I really held myself back a lot by doing that. I think that I really messed up my hormones as a woman specifically by just going so hard all the time and overly fatiguing my body to a point where it probably limited the amount of muscle that I could put on, which was always my goal. And I think that's a really hard mental hurdle to really get over as someone who does want to work hard and wants to build muscle and wants to do big things. It's like you always associate growth with more, and not necessarily with resting more and taking a step back, which it's kind of a mind fuck and it's hard to get over. But eventually when you do, you transition to the 4-day split and you realize how much more you grow, you kind of start to see the benefits, and you start to realize that, okay, maybe I can do this, maybe this is right. And really the explanation behind the upper lower split and why it's so beneficial is that, and this is something I've been doing for like the last probably almost 2 years, maybe a year and a half. The point is that you're able to manage your fatigue a lot better. There is not a single person who can grow effectively and the most optimally by working out 6 days a week, period. It's not necessary, it's not needed. Even the science backs it now. I think the 2 best splits are 3-day full body or 4-day per week upper lower twice a week. So basically you have more time to recover and you are able to limit your fatigue a lot more by training less. You can achieve the same amount of volume and the same amount of frequency that you could with the push-pull legs twice per week. But again, you're managing your fatigue and your recovery a lot more effectively, and obviously that's going to directly translate to muscle growth. The point of this video is to kind of talk about how I've transitioned my training and what I've changed in the last couple weeks in this new training block. So I just wanted to preface with that because that is the split that I'm using. And again, it wasn't always that way, but I highly, highly recommend it. And most of my clients are on that split as well. So right now, I just started a new training block about 2 weeks ago. The purpose of me starting this new training block was because, number one, I felt that my views were going in a different direction as far as what's necessary for my body to see growth at this point in my training career. Now, what I mean by that is I don't believe in doing multiple exercises per muscle group per session. I think 1 or 2 at most per muscle is fine. And I also think that a few sets per muscle group per session is more than optimal because, again, you're not overly fatiguing yourself through the workout and then affecting your recovery and harming your ability to build muscle. So basically what I've done is lower a lot of my working sets down to like 2 sets per exercise. And I have maybe 6 exercises at most per workout. And I've also changed over to doing most of my working sets at 1 to 2 RIR. And that kind of fluctuates week to week based off of what my rep progression is and what my targets are week to week. But previously what I would do is I would train 3 to 4 reps in reserve in week 1. Week 2, I would go 3 reps in reserve. Week 3, 2 reps in reserve for everything. Week 4, 1. Week 5, 0 reps in reserve, failure week, right? And the problem with that is I think you can get I think it's really great for people who are new to RIR because it teaches them and it gets you really familiar with what each of those feel like. Because if you don't know what a 3 RIR is, like you can't train a 3 RIR. So I think for beginners, that's great. But, if you can, once you have mastered reps in reserve, being able to train closer to failure more frequently, I think is far more effective than only having 1 week out of the entire phase where you're training at 0 to 1 reps in reserve. I don't really think it's necessary to push to failure all the time. That's also a viewpoint that I have. I think that the amount of fatigue that you build up from going to 0 RIR comparative to 1 RIR is far more. And again, fatigue is not a good thing, right? Fatigue is not what builds muscle, so we're trying to limit that. So most of my work now is done at 2 to 1 RIR. Because if I can go an entire 5-week span of training every single week at either 2 RIR or 1 RIR, I think that's going to be a lot more effective than going from 3 to 4 all the way up to 0 and then back down again. Now, a couple things that I've seen from this and why it's so beneficial with me literally just being 2 weeks in. One, I've dropped 2 pounds of water weight. That was all inflammation from all the unnecessary volume that I was doing. Second, I've seen my numbers able to climb a lot quicker than what they have been previously. And that's because of the structure that I have with the 1 to 2 RIR fluctuating each week, increasing reps, decreasing reps, increasing weight, etc. So it's all kind of structured out. And I do feel like I've put on a little bit of muscle tissue. It's kind of hard, the later years that you get, the less quickly you can put on muscle tissue, so it's really hard to tell. But so far, I'm looking really good and I'm feeling really good. I'll probably give you guys another update next week. We'll do like a whole physique check and like the results from the last 3 weeks, but it's been awesome. And I'm really happy I've done it because really I came into this a little bit worried of what it would do. I kind of had to let the reins go and just say like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to test this on myself. And I'm really happy I did because, again, it's working super well. And this is something that, I always do for my clients is I want to test stuff out and then be able to translate that into their programming and whatever else. Which, speaking of, I'm not a coach that's going to sit here and say that each person needs a very specific, individualized plan. If you have really great programming, when it comes to muscle growth at least, most people can use that program. There's no really crazy amount of specifics unless you're dealing with like injury or, there's some specifics that we can get into, but I think if you have a really intelligently designed program, you don't need to be super ultra specific about it. Where coaching comes into play is more so, how is your body responding as far as what we're doing nutritionally, pairing it with that, form assessments, making sure that we're really understanding reps in reserve, the technique, the form, and then also the mental side of it and the mindset and the personal development that, we work on rewiring your patterns and the programmings that you run that have kept you in self-sabotage. Like that's really where the coaching comes in. It's not so much that you need like a super individualized plan. What you need is a really intelligently designed program, and that's the difference. Okay, so I could ramble on training stuff all day long if I wanted to, but I want to keep this specific to what the topic of this video is, which is the new training block. So that's implemented. I think I'm on a 5-week block, so I just programmed everything out ahead of time, which I always do. That's what you should be doing. And I'm going to give you guys updates throughout, more so towards the end of this training phase, just so I can kind of wrap everything up. And then hopefully you guys can take from that. If you do your own programming, great. Maybe you can try it out and try and kind of figure it out for yourself. But how I'm going to be tracking my progress during this time is mainly through how I look and feel. Now, this is a lot different than what I've done previously. I was very much someone who would just push, look at all the data and metrics. And in doing so, I kept my body in this kind of stress state and I would hold a lot of water. And like recently, the last couple months, I was just not seeing any change whatsoever. I am trying to lean out right now. And so far in the last 2 weeks, I've lost like 2 to 3 pounds, which is, it's a lot. Most of that's water, but that is a lot for someone of my size. So I'm going to continue doing that, just kind of watching how I feel. I'm obviously weighing myself every other day, if not every day, because it does show the fluctuations on the scale, make sure I'm moving in the right direction. I'm also making sure I take progress photos on a weekly basis, as usual. If you're not doing that, you definitely should be. If you don't have metrics to measure from, how are you ever supposed to know, am I making progress or not? You can't, right? You have to have numbers to measure against or metrics to measure against so that you can feel good about your progress or know that you need to change something. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Obviously, I track my workouts. That's a non-negotiable. I've been doing that for like 4 years. And, that's something that's really been able to set me apart as far as my results compared to the last 4 years versus like the previous 3 years that I was training. Very, very big difference, being able to see your numbers and then try and beat them and also have like numbers in your workouts to aim for. And those are like predetermined. It's definitely a huge difference. So yeah, really it's just coming back to like how I look and feel, but there are metrics that are on the back end supporting that. So the big 3 would be just making sure that you're weighing in pretty frequently, your progress photos, and then how are you feeling recovery-wise. And I think that recovery piece is something that people think that they have a good grasp on, but honestly, I just think the longer that you become in tune with your body, the longer that you're doing this, the more in tune that you become with your body and like how your workouts are really affecting you. So yeah, that's that. Now, the biggest update that I have, at least from my perspective, is on my nutrition. How am I going to be supporting this? What will I be doing with my nutrition and recovery with this new training block? Because obviously I'm bringing a lot of my volume back. I'm doing way less and yet seeing more result. So what is that going to be supported with? Does that mean I have to eat less? Does that mean I have to eat more? What does that mean? For me, that means I continue to eat the same amount that I was eating, which is right around my maintenance calories or just below. But the difference is that I have officially decided as of January 1st that I was not going to track a single thing. I was not going to open MyFitnessPal for 2 months. So all of January and February, I'm not tracking a single thing. Might not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but for me, I've been tracking consistently for years. And anytime that I've taken time off, it hasn't really been like an intentional choice to be like, I'm going to trust myself to be on top of my nutrition and eat the same way that I would without tracking as if I were tracking. I haven't done that. I haven't been intentional and been like, take time off because I just haven't felt well equipped to do so. I haven't really had the skill. Unfortunately, I just finished filming that clip and I realized that like 3/4 of the way through the mic died. So basically what I was saying is that I just didn't really feel very well equipped to not track my food. And I think over the last 3 years, having gone through like a full, real, well-executed building phase, maintenance phase, cut, mini cut, and multiple of each, it's really equipped me with the tools of knowing that I can be consistent in every single phase and be responsible and be accountable to the point where it's now just who I am. It's part of what I do. It's not something that I have to stay like consistent with. It's just like literally what I do. So I'm literally eating all of the same foods. Like there's no difference between when I was tracking and when I'm not tracking. It's just the fact that I'm not logging into MyFitnessPal. Now, the thing with that is, yes, it can be a little bit off as far as estimations, but you know, I think the skill becomes, have you done it for long enough that you can estimate super accurately and know when to pull things back if things aren't moving in the right direction on the scale or whatever else. So right now, I'm trying to lean out. I've already lost like 2.5 pounds and it's been super easy and I haven't even been eating less. In fact, I think I might have been eating the same, if not more than what I was eating. So that's been interesting. But as I'm saying this, I don't want you guys to think that, oh, I shouldn't track my food, like, you know, blah, 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 whatever. I want to do that. I think it's very important for someone who is kind of newer to this or maybe intermediate to like develop a very high level of responsibility in whatever phase you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in a maintenance phase or a cut, they should be treated the same. You should still be the same person that you were in a cut that you are in a maintenance phase. Just because the goal and the focus is different doesn't mean that they both don't have a purpose and that you shouldn't be the same person in both times. So I think for me personally, I've been able to develop a lot of that responsibility you know, over the years, and that's kind of served me to be able to just be the same person now that I was a month ago when I was tracking. And you know, it's obviously like a massive confidence booster being able to see myself do this and a trust builder to see myself do this after tracking so consistently for years on end. And I used to be that person years ago where like I wouldn't intentionally decide to not track my food. I would just fall off track and like not take as much responsibility. And it'd be like 3 out of the 7 days of the week I was tracking my food and I was passing that off as, oh, I'm consistent. Like, no, there's levels to this shit. And a lot of the times when we're, you know, kind of lying to ourselves saying that we're doing it, you know, we're doing as much as we can, we're really not. So I used to be that person. And now that I'm like actually taking the time off intentionally, it feels really good because I've actually like decided I'm taking the time off instead of just like falling off track. And then the last 3 years, I haven't taken any time off apart from when I've been on vacations or holidays and I've intentionally decided to not track, but that's never been longer than like a week. So that's where I'm at with everything. And lastly, if you didn't see already, I'm linking a free guide for the 7 biggest mistakes to avoid when building muscle and a checklist for growth. Just make sure that you're optimizing everything. You're not wasting time in the gym. So if you want that, it'll be in the caption below. I hope that you guys enjoyed this update. There's lots more to come. If you are new here and you enjoyed this and you want to see what we're doing for 2025, hit subscribe and we'll see you in the next one.